Hey guys, it's Diviner from Merch.com with Partyhat Flipping episode number 2. This time I only wanted to talk about flips from one day. I have some others recorded from about a week ago, you can see some of them here, but they aren't really any of note and it's not really what I wanted to talk about. I have enough of these small flips too, definitely do. It's definitely not always so that I only have very large flips, though I do very rarely lose money on Partyhat, so that's all good. Now, the reason why I'd like to talk about this specific day, which was yesterday, is because there was a lot of discussion about the current Partyhat market. A lot of people have been asking others and wondering why the Partyhat market has been steadily declining for weeks now. I suppose people all have their own opinions about it, and I'll share mine here and then quickly show you the flips I did. So let's have a look at the reasons I've seen people mention why we've been having this steady decline for a while. First off, a lot of people are blaming it on the August behind the scenes coming up and the imminent release of the divination skill. Now, I completely disagree with this one. The August behind the scenes is already known for weeks now and it doesn't really contain anything for Partyhats to go down. Unless the improvements to the loyalty point system allow us to buy new Partyhats from the shop, but you can agree with me that's quite unlikely. And the divination skill itself is a resource gathering skill that's been known for probably half a year or something, and that won't require any large amounts of money, maybe very small ones, I doubt it though, to train it, so that's really no reason for Partyhats to go down either. Then a bunch of people were talking about how loads of bots have been getting banned, and in my eyes this is definitely a factor. Just look at how many supplies are rising due to a lack of bots gathering them. Just look at the Frost Dragon Bones here, for example. Now, all of these items make it interesting for wealthy people to make investments in these kind of items and less interesting to hold Partyhats, which lose some value because players have to spend more. Then a bunch of people are blaming it on RuneScape 3. I guess they like hating on it. But this was only recently released and it really didn't make as many people quit as everyone is saying. They're looking at the current players online count mostly. People are saying that, but it has been like this for a longer time and now it's mostly going down and massively dropped because of a lot of bots getting banned. Now, of course, a lot of players have been quitting, definitely, no doubt about that, and less real players in RuneScape does have a large impact on the market. Now, I think anyone who has been flipping Partyhats lately can really tell how they are slower, have a lot bigger margins, and a lot lower volume. Personally, I think it's great as there is much more profit to be made and more advantages for skilled people. Because when the prices are stable with like 5 to 10 mil margins, pretty much anyone can flip them. But when they're really volatile with 10 to 50 mil margins, it requires more skill and it is much more fun to do in my eyes. Still, none of this really answers the steady decline. Which brings me to the last argument I've seen just about everyone use, which is some sort of end of summer crash. Now, I find this one really funny. A few years back, a lot of items rose in price a lot at the beginning of the summer, and they crashed near the end of the summer. Now, people immediately called this some kind of regular pattern called the end of summer crash, and expected it to happen after year from then on. Now, ever since that happened, I've seen people talk about how that is how it always is, because they're simply basing it on the fact that people would buy everything when their summer begins and sell everything when it ends. Now, in reality, it's only a very small amount of the actual players that do this, so I find it quite funny because people are basing their entire thoughts about the market on something that happened once. Let's look at red Halloween masks as an example. In 2011 they first rose a lot because of flipping being so easy due to free trade being released, and after being stable they started rising at the beginning of July and they then crashed in September. Now in 2012 they started rising in June already and they crashed a bit in August, but not as much because there was much more gold in the game due to bots and a lot more demand because of gamblers. Now in 2013 they already started rising in April and they crashed at the beginning of July. Now, I think this just clearly shows how people keep trying to stay ahead of some kind of pattern, and this is just one out of countless items. In my eyes there really is no pattern and it's just a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is purely psychological. Everyone wants to buy in before a rise and sell before a crash, and by thinking this, they create them earlier and earlier. The exact same thing happened with bonus XP weekends. The first two came as surprises and people stocked right after they were announced, but the ones after that were pre-stocked about 1 to 2 months in advance, and the year after that, people already started stocking almost right after the current weekend was over. Just look at the clean Lanta teams. In 2010 they rose in February at the announcement and in August at the announcement. In 2011 they started rising in February and the announcement wasn't until March. After that they rose from as early as April and the actual peak was way before the Bone 6 weekend. Then for the next one they were stocked all the way from October to March, and these last peaks were also much smaller, and it is the same thing that is happening to Partyhats really. The problem with merchanting is that people too often base their opinions about things that happened in the past. In my eyes, you really need to keep in mind that the market constantly changes and evolves over time, and the past is certainly a large factor in that, but far from the only one at play. So coming back to these Partyhats, why did they rebound yesterday? It's pretty simple. Everyone was talking them down and yelling what low price they are coming from last year and that they should go to that now, but by doing that, people will obviously rebuy higher, just so they don't miss out on the rise and all the profit they've been anticipating. Literally everyone's sitting there and waiting for even the slightest motion of a rise, ready to buy. They rebounded because they were oversold and the supply in the market wasn't too large anymore, as quite a few people had restocked already. Now personally I bought 11 hats right before the rise. I think they helped, but they weren't enough to make the difference yet, of course. You can see here how I only had one purple yet, and all my buy offers were above the last reported prices, except for yellow, which was quite high at that time. Anyways, the reason why I bought 11 is because I wanted to be able to sell them all in my Grand Exchange slots. I knew that after buying I was going to be busy and I wasn't really going to be around. So I got some real life stuff done and I returned later on. I then managed to sell them all for pretty much their peaks, after which they dropped down. And they rose quite a bit further by today though. I intended to rebuy hats after selling yesterday, but I totally forgot about it due to some real life issues. That's to the regret of quite a bit of potential profit, of course, but at least I still made very easy profit, and I won't be around much for the rest of today or tomorrow anymore to keep an eye on them either. Anyways, here's an overview of the buys and sales again. The green dots are buys and the reds are for sales, pretty much the same as the last video. You can see that the last part of the graph is pretty steep, which is because there were no updates being taken between those 2 points, sadly. We had some technical difficulties as we were trying to improve the system and it kind of jammed and went down. Now, I guess this video had a lot more market talk than I intended it to have, and of course everyone is entitled to their own opinions about it. These were mine, and feel free to share yours in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed it and perhaps learned something new, and I'll see you guys next time.